What you are listening to now is the Central Indiana Sports Report's high school football game day coaches show, where we talk to some of the coaches around the area about big games coming up this weekend. On this week's edition, we talked to Tipton head coach Aaron Tolle about coming off a win over Frankton, now facing rival Elwood, to Eastbrook head coach Jeff Adamson, whose team won a thriller over Huntington North in the opener and now goes to Fort Wayne to face a Concordia team that beat them last year. The debut of Eastern Hancock head coach Josh Holden, who won his debut as Eastern Hancock's head coach on Friday and now faces a really good North Decatur team. And Frankton head coach Marty Wells, who leads Frankton for the first time as head coach into its rivalry game against Lapel.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Menkels.
All right, Michelle, we're going to open the program with Tipton head coach Aaron Tolle, one of the best friends of this podcast in the year or so that we've been doing it. Coming off a big win last week over Frankton, my alma mater, and this week they play the Elwood Panthers, of course the town that I grew up in, and they are delivering some beatings. We expect the same on Friday, but Coach Tolle said, he remembers the days when Elwood and Tipton was a thing, and he does not want to lose that game.
No, he does not. And he didn't quite touch on it as much, but that rivalry goes back before he was ever a player or thing.
Before we were around.
His dad coached freshman for a year at Elwood. Head coaching
and when his dad was a player at Elwood, they had big rivalries with Tipton.
But what I was getting at was when Elwood elected not to hire his dad, who was from Elwood,
mistake.
Successful and coached freshmen, and went another direction. When Mike Tolle came to Tipton, it became. Aaron says it's still a rivalry, and that still goes back to the emotions of that. You like that.
Oh, so
spur.
close, similar-sized towns.
Yes.
Of course, it's a rivalry.
Yes, but it really, since Mike took over that program, and then with Aaron, it has slowly. I mean, at one time, Tipton was was behind in the overall matchups, and then they were catching up. Then they equaled it, and now they are just way ahead. And it's not just the wins; it's the point totals. I mean,
I'm glad they still play it, Michelle. There's every reason for both programs not to play it, but I think the connection between the families, Elwood and the Tolles, and also just it's, again, similar-sized towns with similar-sized aspirations. It's a rivalry that needs to go on even, I think, if it continues to be this lopsided until one day maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And it's still going to be interesting because, Elwood, I know they were scared that they might be in Tri-Central's position this year because they had such low turnouts over the summer and, the preseason practices. And then I know that they get a low turnout in their junior high. I mean, I think they got one class down there that has 0 or no more than 5 kids that play football. So it is interesting, and that's a discussion that we'll all need to have at a later time, and Aaron would be a good one. He had some good thoughts on that process, so, we
also got an update on his dad.
And we did get an update on his dad, which is great, and I don't think you can, at least in my time, I do remember, Mike wasn't he came to Tipton when I was a senior. I'm old, okay? But Michael said, oh my gosh, that makes me older. I remember, and he just changed the culture right away. But when you think, from even me, when I think of Tipton football and even Tipton Elwood football, it goes back to, Mike. And I know how much emphasis he always put on this week. And he he just did not want to ever lose. And I think that's true. I think if Aaron was to go coach somewhere else at some point and Tipton was on his schedule, he would never want to lose to Tipton.
Right. And before, as you brought up, that butterfly effect that Elwood decided not to hire Coach Tolle in the first place, we were talking to Aaron before the conversation, and he was less convinced than I am that things would be completely different today had they made that decision. But It was a tragic decision, Michelle.
And especially, and I hope that things go well and
Yeah, we love Sammy.
And Sammy can stay there for a while because
and it's still great to be an Elwood Panther.
Because part of Elwood's problem, truthfully, is there was a time they were going through a coach every year, and you can't build anything when you change coaches every year.
And we know that Sammy Morales knows how to build a youth program. All right, Michelle, here is Coach Aaron Tolle on Tipton versus the Elwood Panthers. Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report. Tipton head coach Aaron Tolle coming off a big win over Frankton in their season opener and going into a Week 2 game against rival Elwood, the Blue Devils season opener. Coach, your thoughts on Week 1?
I thought it was a typical Week 1 performance. I thought I saw some really, really good things. I thought I saw some things that, and we kind of told our kids that, that we did really well, yet we made, in all honesty, Coach Shear and myself said, we were almost upset after the game because of the number of mistakes we made. I felt like we left 19 points on the board. To Frankton's credit, we get stopped inside the 10 twice. We missed a field goal. We missed 2 extra points. You can't do that week in and week out and be successful. So that was a disappointing thing. But on the flip side, you look at it and say, well, we did throw for almost 300 yards and we rushed for 200 yards. We had 500 yards of offense. I thought our defense played a really good ball game for the majority of the game. We gave up 1 big play. So there were lots of positives, but anytime, after that first week where you go out and you actually play somebody else and they've game planned for you and those things, we saw exactly the things that we needed to work on, and hopefully we focused on those things this week. And as far as coaches talk goes, coaches would tell you that you improve more between Week 1 and Week 2 than any other time during the season.
And your thoughts on how Quinn performed in Week 1?
I thought there were a lot of positives. I didn't think he threw the ball very well early, his first 2 or 3 passes. We didn't throw the long ball very well at all last year. And I think he had 3 or 4 of those this year. So that was an emphasis in the offseason. So
you know what you needed, Coach? You needed what I needed when I started this podcast? A Garmon.
Yeah. Yes. I thought Dakota was off the charts. And we kind of saw that at 7-on-7 at Ball State in early June. Playing the position, I just kind of felt like, he took that next step. He's been a guy that's been out there for us the last 2 years, and he was capable. But he kind of took it upon himself and said, you know what, I'm going to be the guy. When you're the guy, you demand the ball, and once you get the ball, then you make things happen after it's in your hands. And I thought he did that really well on Friday and made a lot of big plays. And honestly, after the first quarter, we were dead even 0-0. And I felt like Frankton kind of had the momentum, and we made a big play. Quinn made a nice throw, deep ball to Garmon, and he went 70-some yards for a touchdown. And I felt like that. It's like our entire sideline could kind of take a deep breath, and we just played after that. So to his credit, I thought they both played really well offensively.
Hey, Aaron, is it a little bit of adjustment because it's rare for you to have for a quarterback to be on the field as much as Quinn is on the field for you guys right now? Is that a little bit of adjustment? Because I noticed that he's having to hold for your extra point attempts. He's your up man on your punt. So he doesn't really come up. Only team he really doesn't play on, right, are the kickoff teams?
He's not. He's on the extra point team. He's not on anything else. We don't like to do it. I think he's one of our 11 best defensive players. I don't think there's any doubt about that. In the past, we have not played our quarterback. But I'll be honest, Michelle, it simply comes down to depth, to where, we don't have 60 kids on the roster anymore. When guys like KJ Roudabush and Sam Edwards and those guys when they played, we had a much bigger roster, and we had a lot more depth defensive back wise or linebacker wise, and we could get away with not playing that kid on defense.
That wasn't a criticism, because Quinn is he's really good. I just meant, is it an adjustment a little bit because you don't have your quarterback over there on the sideline sometimes being able to talk after a series?
I mean, and it is a little bit different. And but on the flip side, you look at Eastbrook, you look at Sheridan, you look at those kids. They've always had their quarterback play on both sides of the ball. So I think there are pluses and minuses to it. We're just in a position right now where a lot of we need to have him out there to be successful in the Hoosier Conference and come tournament play. So not necessarily totally comfortable with it all the time. I mean, we're trying. We're working every day in practice trying to build depth in our defensive backfield to be able to give Quinn or Garmon or Mahaney a break somehow, some way, especially early in the season when you run the possibility of it being hot and those kind of things. But that's just the situation we're in with a roster of 40.
Oh no, yeah. Like I said, I just knew that it probably was a little.
And and I'll tell you, the other thing is, I have the old timers will always say, well, Lauren Weeks played defense and Greg Hart played defense. And I'm like, yeah, they did, but they didn't carry the ball. I think Quinn had 12 carries on Friday. They didn't carry the ball 12 times, throw the ball 17 to 20 times, and then play defense on top of that. I mean, our quarterbacks back then handed the ball off, and they dropped back 3-step, 5-step drop and threw the ball. So the amount of contact our quarterbacks get in my offense is much greater than what we did back then.
Coach Elwood comes in 1-0 for the second straight year. I know we're not going to pretend that it's the same rivalry that it used to be or anything like that. But
it is in my mind. My mind. Great.
But that being said, losing to them would be a tragedy, right?
I mean, we've got a streak going, and we warn the kids every single year, and we say you don't want to be the team that breaks that streak, and we warn them that Elwood will play harder Friday than they play any other game all year long. And by them sneaking up on us and
Tipton.
beating us, it would make their season. So we've thrown the warnings out there, and the bottom line is we need to get better. We need to correct the mistakes we made against Frankton. And if we do that, then we should be perfectly fine. But if we don't, and we take the week for granted and we don't get better this week, then it's high school football. I mean, there's 16, 17, 18-year-olds running around with my paycheck out there. So anything can happen in high school sports. So we need to be mentally, we've challenged them mentally to be mentally prepared to go out and play as well as they can physically. So we've had a good week of practice. I'm excited to see us in our home opener, to be honest.
Coach, Tipton kids and Elwood kids have loved to hit each other for over a century now. So it's a great rivalry. I know it's not what it used to be. Hopefully one day it can be again, Michelle.
Hey, Aaron, what have you noticed on film where that Elwood's improved at from last year under Sammy, the director?
Well, I just think they're always they always have athletic, aggressive kids. Now, the past number of years they haven't had as many as they have in the past, but they're still out there. They're still kids that love the game of football, play hard, are aggressive, play fast, and that can be scary on film sometimes because I can go back to I know we have a big sophomore class, and I can remember that team. When our team was in 8th grade, and they played Elwood's 8th grade. Now we went undefeated, but that was the best team we played all year long. and that includes Hamilton Heights, Lapel, the Elwood class was the best. That was the best team we played all year. So I know there is talent in there. They may be sophomores, a lot of them, and I know they play a bunch of those kids. But those kids are used to winning because they did in the younger ages. But the last thing we want to do is give them a little bit of momentum because I think they would take that and run with it.
How are you? How are the Blue Devils health-wise after week 1?
Health-wise, we are in pretty good shape. We came out uninjured on Friday, so we've got Joe Klauser as one of our senior corners that's out. He broke a couple ribs in the Peru scrimmage. We kind of think he might be on a little faster track than we originally thought. So he was out. He hasn't practiced with us yet, but he was conditioning. And so with broken ribs, if he can run up and down and take deep breaths and condition, then I think that's a really positive sign. So he's supposed to see a doctor again here, I believe, next week, and hopefully we get good news there. But we've got a lineman, Mason Tice, that has a back issue. A little bit undecided on it at this point. We're going to try physical therapy for a while, so we're not sure on him at this point. Hopefully we can get him back because he would be a major asset. He's a move in from Iowa that was playing some right tackle for us, and outside of those two kids, and hopefully they're mending and we're going to get them back, then we're in pretty good shape.
Coach, how's Coach Tolle doing?
The old Coach Tolle?
Yeah, how is your dad doing?
The old Coach Tolle he's doing great. For people that don't know, he had a major surgery, I believe December 3rd. They went in and removed like 6 inches of his esophagus and then pulled his stomach up and attached it. And he had a tough 3 months, to be honest. He was on a feeding tube for 18 hours a day, so he couldn't really leave the house, which killed him socially, which kind of affected him mentally a little bit. My wife and I kind of had to go in and give him a pep talk or two. And, there was once I just went in the house and I challenged him, and I just told him, I said, hey, look, I said, you made the Hall of Fame on challenging kids to do things that were hard or that were difficult. And I said, now it's your turn. I said, you got to swallow the pill here, and for the next 6 or 8 weeks, you got to be that kid that you preach that to for so many years, and he's done that, and he's pretty much back to normal. His eating habits are a little bit different, but his mindset's the same as it's always been. He's back fishing once or twice a week. He's out seeing his grandkids play, so he's in a much, much better place than he was, say, 6 months ago.
Well, Coach, give him our love. I have always liked and respected him despite being a Tipton Blue Devil. Sorry.
Well, good. I like and respect him, too. So we're in the same boat there.
Michelle, on Thursday evening, you and I spoke with Eastbrook head coach Jeff Adamson, which we always enjoy.
We do. I will say that I always think this. We always get a good chuckle when we talk to Aaron and we talk to Jeff. They've just been around for so many years. They have some great stories, and they're just fun to talk to. And
no coach speak. No, it's all genuine. They want to genuinely answer your questions. That's what puts them. It takes them from one level to another as a football coach.
And plain speak. I mean, they just tell it like it is. They're not trying to hype their team or the other team up. I mean, they analyze it. Yes.
We also talked with Frankton head coach Marty Wells, same way. He is not going to sugarcoat things.
Nope.
He's going to tell you like it is, and those are the people that we love.
We do. I mean, I think it's a lot more interesting when you can sit down and have a conversation.
And that's the word that comes to mind when you think of those guys. Michelle, the Panthers are 1-0 coming off a game in which they beat Huntington North 21-20 when Huntington North missed an extra point in the final seconds. Of course, Coach said he felt a little bad about that, but he'll take the win. And now they go to Fort Wayne Concordia, a team that doesn't win very much, but as they learned last year, is pretty good anyway.
Concordia's strengths are what has hurt Eastbrook in games traditionally in the past. They have good wide receivers. They have fast wide receivers. A good vertical passing game. And that is, in my experience, when I have covered an Eastbrook-Tipton game, when Tipton has scored on them or when Tipton has beat them, it's because Tipton has good wide receivers. They can get vertical in the passing game.
And Concordia typically goes 3-7, 2-8 because they play a schedule in which every team in their conference is bigger than they are or is lures.
Yes.
And they've gone into some postseasons with 2-3 wins and made long runs.
Well,
It's a really good program that nobody knows is a good program because they lose.
Right. How many schools in the CIC, other than maybe Mississippi,
Maybe
the last
Mississippi,
one, would go and compete in that conference?
They wouldn't. So, all right, Michelle, here is Eastbrook head coach Jeff Adamson, who likes the challenge of playing teams like Huntington North and Concordia in the pre-conference. Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report. Eastbrook head coach Jeff Adamson off of a thrilling Week 1 win over Huntington North. And, Coach, you always want to win. Winning a game like that is great. How bad do you feel for the kicker when that happens?
Yeah, that's a tough deal. We were able to get a little bit of pressure on it, and I think it's always, even if you have a perfect snap and a perfect hold, it's just distracting to have guys running by you when you're, concentrating on a kick like that, and probably magnified even more when it's, the one that's going to tie it and send it into overtime. But it was a fun night. It really was.
Coach, being 1-0 is always a good thing, and winning at a place like Huntington North, a program that you've been saying is on the rise, nice start for your team.
Yeah, I think any time in football, you spend a great deal of the summer, and then those first 2 weeks are just a grind for guys, and to go out and get a win, it kind of makes you feel like you spent your time in a worthwhile way. And it certainly gave us a lot of momentum. Just even heading into Saturday morning at film, the guys were feeling good about it, and it was just a real good atmosphere in the film room on Saturday morning.
Of course, close games aren't really new to you, though, right? I mean, in your career, you've been involved in several of them. So, what's the key to keeping your kids on, when it comes down to like that keeping them focused and calm?
Well, that was the other part of Saturday morning. Everybody felt good coming in, and then we spent time watching the film, and I think there was so much that we could have, so many different things we could have done better, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that I think everybody left there still feeling good, but also realizing we've got a lot of work to do. And so, in the coaching speak, that's right where you want them, right? Everybody feels happy and still together because you got the win, but also humbled a little bit, after watching the film and realizing that there's a lot we need to get better at.
Coach, looking at your schedule, it's kind of a trade-off, isn't it? You play 5 of your first 6 games on the road, but the other CIC contenders, the other teams that we all expect to be the really good CIC teams, all come to your place this year. So 5 of the first 6 on the road, how do you feel about that?
Well, I'd like to have one of those, at least one more of those at home. But, I think, several years ago, we started playing Huntington, and we knew that was going to be a tough opening game for us. And it's proven to be a game that has, I think, helped prepare us for conference play and also later in the tournament. And the same thing with playing Concordia. I think those are 2 games that have really helped us get better very early in the season. And I think they play a lot different style than, what the teams in our conference play. So I think that's another added bonus. You're going to see some different looks that make you prepare differently. But as far as that goes, playing on the road, I think that's another thing that kind of helps prepare you for the tournament. You're probably going to travel to a couple schools you've not been to before, or at least the players haven't. And so it's a good experience for them to get used to the routine of, when you got to get yourself dialed in when you're on the bus and going to a new place and settling in and getting ready to play.
But, Coach, this is going to be an easy win. They've only won two games a year the last 4 years. They only won 2 games last year, and they lost 48-28 last week. So they're clearly not going to be a challenge for your team, right? I think
one of those wins they got last year was against us at the
right.
end of the game. So
I think people look at Concordia's record and think they can't play football, but the truth is they're in Fort Wayne and their conference is all 6A, 5A, and 4A teams.
Yeah, they play a brutal schedule. They really do. They play everybody on their schedule, other than us and Cecina, who they play the first 2 weeks, is a bigger school, and Concordia has. They won a state championship not too awful long ago, and
that's right.
They get a really good run of players. But I'll tell you, they've got some really athletic kids, and they've got some kids with really, really good size, and that's what gave us a lot of trouble last week. Kind of that combination of guys that were too big for us to move on the offensive line, and then backed up with some really athletic kids that they could throw the ball to.
You could just be padding your coaching stats here, Coach, and getting easy wins these first 2 weeks. What are you doing going to Huntington and Concordia?
Well, we had that discussion among the team because it seemed like we had a lot of people asking, why are you playing Huntington? And, like I said, it's a great game to help prepare us for the tournament. And, I think you have to be willing to play some teams that are going to be over your head a little bit if you really want to get better. And I think both of those games the past couple of years have helped us do that.
Concordia, they kind of rallied a little bit last week with the threats that they have, kind of like passing game and the line. How key is it going to be for especially your defense to not let up? And does the fact that we're still having cooler temperatures help all of that?
Well, I think the temperatures thing is a really good question. We had several guys out with cramps, or at least have to come out for a couple plays through the course of the game last week, and we are not blessed with a great deal of depth at the moment. I think we found probably 4 to 5 guys who came in, and originally we thought we're just going to be in relief for some of those starters to get them out for a couple plays, but some of those guys went in and played really, really well, took advantage of that opportunity, and so it's another thing you want to find early is some depth, but I'm a big sissy and I don't like to be cold, so I prefer the warm weather. But I think when you're a smaller school and you got so many guys playing both ways, I think you like it to be just a little bit cooler so the guys aren't exposed to so much heat playing all the time. But you hit on the other thing too. They have 3 excellent receivers, and I am sure that all 3 of them are faster than anyone we have, and they've got a quarterback that throws the ball really well. And what makes it, I think, different for us this week, Concordia's quarterback is an excellent scrambler. They run a lot of option with him. He's a good runner, and you talk about defending the pass. You want to be able to get pass or pressure on the passer. It's going to be difficult because we really have to stay in our lanes and can't let him get outside of us because he can hurt us with his legs just as much as his arm.
So they have a Bodie Howell-like guy then too.
They've got a Bodie Howell guy. He's a little shorter, but probably is used to throwing it a lot more than Bodie. Our history of throwing the ball is a lot less than Concordia's.
Coach, tell me about Mason Shell. He had a heck of a good game this week.
Yeah, he really did. Mason is we had several guys that kind of had a bad taste in their mouth after last season, and I think really wanted to make sure they were taking advantage of every opportunity they had to get better. And it started right, I don't know, about early December, before Christmas break. We were doing a lot of speed workouts, and we don't have a lot of space to work out in our school, so we were doing all these in the hallways, and there's nobody clapping, nobody cheering, band's not playing, they're just kind of working on their own, and guys put in work 3 days a week all the way up until the spring, when spring sports started, and right after that they got in the weight room, and Mason was one who was leading a lot of that. And he was able to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback last week, recovered a big fumble for us that led to our only offensive score of the night. He just had a fantastic game. My favorite play that he had, he chased the ball carrier down all the way from the backside of the offensive line all the way down the line of scrimmage. And, just chased him behind the line of scrimmage and tackled him all the way at the other end of the line. Tackling for a loss. It was a big play for him.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us again, and good luck on Friday, that long trip to Fort Wayne. You better enjoy those bus rides, Coach, because you're going to make a lot of them coming up.
Yeah, we'll get used to it one way or another.
Michelle, we decided to add Boone, Hamilton, and Hancock counties to our coverage area because they are so much involved with the other teams that are in our coverage area, and they're all really good at sports, and we thought we wanted to be involved in that. So I sent out an email to all the coaches last week. Anybody want to be on the Central Indiana Sports Report? About 2 minutes later, Eastern Hancock's new coach, Josh Holden, said he would love to talk about his kids on the Central Indiana Sports Report. So here he is, coming off, Michelle, a really impressive 50-14 win at Greencastle in the season opener, a game that you and I picked Greencastle, and I told Coach Holden in this conversation that we picked his team to win this week, and he said, oh, no, please don't do that.
I like it when coaches want to come on and promote their kids, and there are some really good coaches in this area that do, and they're just knowledgeable. It's just fun. I mean, people, you need to listen just because there's some good coaches here, and they're not going to just promote their kids. You're going to learn about their teams and their kids, but you're also going to learn something about football because coaches are pretty knowledgeable around here, especially coaches like a long time and have had success, like Jeff Adamson.
Josh Holden got his first win last week against Greencastle. Now they face a very good North Decatur team that won its season opener over South Decatur 61-0, a program that doesn't lose often, a program that doesn't give up many points. A pretty big challenge for Josh Holden in his first home game as Eastern Hancock's head coach, and here he is. Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report. Eastern Hancock head coach Josh Holden, who had a successful debut. 36 points in the first quarter of your debut, Coach. That's what you call a successful debut.
Yeah, it's definitely successful for our offensive coordinator, who is not me. So,
of course, passing the buck.
That's right.
Sharing the credit.
I hired the right guy. Hired the right guy. So, it was right off the gate. We hadn't practiced special teams nearly enough, and we end up returning the opening kickoff. And from then on, it was just kids making play. So
Coach,
exciting.
Coach, I've never heard a coach say that they practice special teams enough. Every coach says we didn't get enough special teams work.
Absolutely. When I start with offensive line, I'm a little bit of an offensive line guy, and I look at what North Decatur brings up front. They're not overly big, but man, they get after you, and they're down blocking and they're pulling, and they're fighting to the whistle, and that gets scary. It's I'm not worried about big, strong offensive linemen. I'm worried about physical scrapping. Just love the nastiness of being an offensive or defensive lineman. That means something. So we're going to have to come out. We're going to have to be as physical or more physical than they are up front. We're in pretty good shape. We get one of our best O linemen back, a junior, Braden Hester. He was out last game, but he's back, and we had to shuffle some people around O line wise. And they did a great job. But getting a 6'1", 6'2", almost 300-pound starting guard back with some nasty to him helps us a lot. And on the other side of the ball, our defensive line's got to get after it. We didn't have a ton of production up front with our starting three. Most of that comes from our linebacking core, but they've got the potential to make some big plays. So with the running game that North Decatur brings, I think they got to have a big game.
Speaking of North Decatur, Coach Stern's program doesn't lose very often. You have had success against them in the last couple of years. But that defense is, every year you look on John Harrell's site and you look at top defenses, and it seems like North Decatur is there every single year.
Yeah, well, they're one of the best coached teams in the state and have been for years. And, you watch what they do on both sides of the ball, including special teams. They play ball the right way, and they have, kids who not only play hard, they do their jobs, they trust each other. It's not a one-man show out there. They're just, we've preached it all week. These guys are going to be really, really well coached, and we have to do our job, but we have to, like I said, match the physicality that they're going to come with. But it's in our defense, on our side of it, we got a lot of weapons you got to stop. So, you kind of pick your poison, we hope, and we find the guy to get the ball to. But we have a lot of weapons, so we're pretty confident, that our offense will score some points. And again, taking nothing away from them, we know they're pretty dang good. But we think our offense is pretty loaded too.
Well, you'd be happy to know we just made our high school football picks. I don't know, maybe you won't like this, but we all three picked Eastern Hancock to win this weekend. You talked about your offensive line. You talked about your weapons. Who are some of the players that your fans should be looking out for this Friday?
Well, first of all, don't pick us. We were jumping up and down. We're like, yes, we're not ranked this week.
I saw that. I was a little surprised.
Let's fly under the radar as long as we can. And, I think as far as last week, it is tough. You're trying to prepare for a team you've never seen play except for in a scrimmage. That's tough. And, that element of surprise is gone now, having played a real game and, trading film. So, North Decatur knows kind of what we are. And I know that their coaching staff does a great job breaking down film and preparing their guys. So, now it's going to go out and it's going to be a smash mouth game. And I can't wait. This is the kind of game I want to play. So, it'll be good. But I think, as far as individual players, I don't know that we have, I don't really like to talk about individuals, too much, maybe some units. And I think one of the things that was probably overlooked for us coming into the season is our O-line. I was watching today, and they're starting to gel. They're getting it. And, I looked at our coach. I said, that could be the best O-line in 2A.
Wow. Well, then give me some names there. Who are your offensive linemen, Coach? So
we got two seniors up front. Our center, Christian Wisman, is doing a great job. He's not super big, but obviously his first job is to get the ball to the quarterback, and he does that really well. And then I'm telling you, just this week, he has started, not just understanding his role, but the entire line as a whole. And I was just watching him pick up blitzes today and pass protection. It's just a thing of beauty. And I think, he gets overlooked because he's down there, in the trenches, and, fans are going to watch. Fans want to watch Mark Kuby run the ball. They want to watch, Elijah Eden throwing the bombs to, Eli Manship and Luke Manship. And, that's all good. And that's what people are going to like to see. But to me, I look at film and I go, man, did you see that blitz pickup by our center? That was pretty darn good. That was good. And then our left tackle, Carson Smith is, I have told him he's one of the top 5 offensive linemen I've ever coached, and I've gotten to coach some good offensive linemen. I just got to coach a kid named Reese Hill who was at Purdue for a year. He's since transferred to Ball State with the coaching change, but he's pretty darn good. And Carson Smith's one of those level guys. He's played guard for us last game, and we didn't miss a beat. In fact, he looked pretty darn good at guard. So, but like I said, with Braden Hester coming back, he's a junior. Slide him back out to left tackle, keep Hesse at guard, and that's pretty darn good. Another junior Brendan Brendan Trueblood is an undersized right tackle, but just technically very, very, very good. Mean, doesn't say a word, that perfect mentality you want for an offensive lineman. I'm going to go kick your butt, and I'm going to walk back to the huddle and do it again, and just loves every second of it. And then we got a sophomore who's going to be a dude. I'm telling you, you watch the next couple of years, this kid's going to be a dude. He's going to be an all-state lineman. His name's Drew Morris. He's a monster of a man. He's about 6'1" and probably 285, 290 now, and strong as a bull and can move. We watch him pull. We pull him on sweep, and it's unreal. He's out there in front of our running backs just chasing down DBs. So, that crew to me is where it's at. Like I said, everybody wants to watch the Eli Manships and Gavin Bowmans, who returned the opening kickoff, and I think he had a receiving touchdown last week too, and just was a stud for us. But those 5 guys up front are just they're gonna win or lose the game, right? And you don't want to put that kind of pressure on a kid, but it just is. That's what it comes down to more times than not, especially against a quality team like North Decatur.
That's right, in the big games. That's definitely where it's decided. Coach Josh Holden, thank you so much for your time. Good luck in your home debut. I hope it goes as well as your varsity debut, your varsity head coaching debut, Coach. Thanks.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. We're just out here having fun, so.
Michelle, the Marty Wells era at Frankton began with a 41-12 loss to Tipton. Not a positive outcome, but there were some good things to take away from it. You were there.
Yes, there were. I mean, they made 2 really big goal line stands, one in the first half and one in the second half. They stopped Tipton, I think, 2 other times on downs. Ethan Stansbury broke up a 4th down pass when Tipton was in the red zone. So defensively, they did some nice things. I thought they defended very well in the short field. All right. Tipton was able to get them deep in the big play. Most of their big plays came in the passing game, and they were just kind of in the wrong coverage. And that's a secondary that's still. I think when you're secondary, I think you have to see it. I think you have to play against it a little bit and get better. And for Frankton's secondary, the thing for them is they're going to be challenged the first 2 weeks. They were challenged against Tipton. They're going to get challenged again this week with
and then
Lapel.
The next 5 weeks too in the conference.
Yes. And now offensively, they really couldn't get a running game going. Now part of that is I think the Wax kid, Eli, was a little bit banged up, but he did show he got some positive plays in the 4th quarter. Now granted, that came after Tipton had pretty much taken out a lot of their, like Chase Hussey and some of their big defensive players, but it's gonna be a process. But Marty is right; those kids competed and they competed hard all 4 quarters. It was 40.
What the Frankton Eagles do, Michelle. It's what the Frankton Eagles do.
I mean, they have it, except maybe not a little bit. I think last year was a very disappointing and an anomaly. But so. They're kind of back to that. Frankton grit.
Michelle, here is Frankton head coach Marty Wells on the loss to Tipton and their first road game of the year coming up at rival Lapel. A really good team. Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report. Frankton head coach Marty Wells off of a 41-12 loss to Tipton. And it just gets easier this week, doesn't it, Coach? got the Lapel Bulldogs, who looked awfully good last week.
Yeah, they're definitely a very good football team. Big rivalry game, though, so our kids will be ready to play, and we'll lay it on the line and see what happens.
What did you like from what you saw from your team in week 1, Coach?
I thought we hung in there. We fought the fight for 48 minutes. I'm not sure we would have done that in the past. With 6 minutes to go in the first half, it's still 6-0, and we turned the ball over at midfield. They score on the next play. They kick off to us. We fumble, and they score 4, 5, 6 plays later after that. So we go quickly from 6-0, 21-0. But our kids came out in the third and fourth quarters and battled. And we put 12 points on the board ourselves, and that was a positive for us.
What was the mood in practice this week from the kids?
Well, it's Lapel week, so I think it's a little different than last week. Today we kind of struggled a little bit early, but then picked up the pace once we got into our team stuff. The intensity levels picked up and the pace picked up. So yesterday defensively was a good day. Today offensively was a good day. We'll walk through some stuff tomorrow and head down there Friday.
The big plays that defensively you guys were pretty sound, except for some of those big plays that you gave up in the passing game.
Well, Devin Craig's going to help that.
I was getting ready to say that was against Tipton. So now you're gonna face the team that, and no offense to Aaron and Quinn and company, but Lapel, Devin Craig, and his receivers are a step above a little bit.
Well, they're breaking in some new receivers, so I think they're still all trying to get on the same page. I would say Tipton's receivers and Lapel's receivers are on equal footing. I think Lapel's, I don't think their offensive line is quite as good as Tipton's, and I'm not sure maybe until we get to Mississippi, we'll see an offensive line that is good as what Aaron has. But they're pretty stout up front. Those 2 big tackles they got moved some people, and they got some quicks amongst them too. And they got a good scheme, so they're going to put some pressure on a lot of people.
And Lapel, a big win over Hamilton Heights. A little bit surprising they held them to 7 points, and a little surprising they did most of their damage on the ground.
Well, they ran the opening kickoff back, so that was kind of a punch in the nose for Heights. It was about a 94-yard kickoff return to open the game, and then it stayed that way for a little bit, and then they got a safety later on. It's 16-0. Heights made it 16-7, and then I think Lapel scored late in the third quarter to make it 23-7. But it was a good football game, 2 good football teams, and Devin Craig's the real deal. He can make something out of nothing, and he, a lot of times you want to try to keep the quarterback in the pocket. I think he might be better outside the pocket than he is inside the pocket, but we got our hands full, that's for sure, to try to keep him under wraps. And they got a pretty good scheme as well. They're spread you out a lot like what Tipton will do, and we might be playing a little more zone this week than we did last week. Maybe should have played a little more zone last week, but we were positioned on a couple of those long touchdown plays, especially the one that they scored to make it 12-0 after our fumble at midfield, and we were defending it. We just didn't get knocked down or even intercepted it. So we've worked pretty hard this week on defending the pass, and you can't turn away from Miller either. He's a good running back, and he's got some quicks to him, and it's kind of similar to what we saw last week.
I was going to say that one big pass play to Durham that set up one of their second half scores. Your 2 DBs knocked each other off that play. They hadn't tackled for maybe 15-yard gain, but it ends up being over 50 because they knock each other off the ball.
Yes, they did.
Coach,
and then the long touchdown pass they got, they just ran right through our coverage. That was just a blown assignment for us, and those are things that you can't have, especially against a good football team.
Hey, I was going to say, Marty, I thought one really good strength of yours was I thought Hunter Ullery, his leg is just huge. Great punts, and he did a great job of booming some, pinning Tipton down early, and his kickoffs were really good.
I think we had him at 42-yard average, and he had 2 inside the 20. One was down to about the 6. He had a 65-yarder that I can't remember if that got inside the 20 or not. And it had a little roll to it, but it was probably 50 yards in the air. So Hunter does a nice job. He comes out. That's all he wants to do is punt. That's all he does for us is punt, and he works on all day. So he works on his craft, and fortunately for him and us, the other night it panned out. We're gonna hopefully we'll win some field position battles with that leg of his.
Thanks so much to Coach Tolle, Coach Adamson, Coach Holden, and Coach Wells for joining us. And thank you for listening. Please make sure you tune in on Saturday morning for the high school football scoreboard show for week 2. On Tuesday for the football report, where we go over what happened the previous week. We have our offensive, defensive, two-way players of the week, our win of the week, our coach of the week, and team of the week, plus our top 20 power poll, which is really tough now that we've added Boone, Hancock, and Hamilton counties, because there are a lot of good teams there. We could really use your help in helping spread the word about the Central Indiana Sports Report. Please go and share this podcast with your friends who might be interested. We really appreciate you listening and could really use your help. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.